sales of exports of Canadian-made vehicles, those are the ones that the Trump tariffs apply to, 25% tariffs, are down 23%. That is a huge hit. We've already seen some shifts canceled at some of those plants, as well as other layoffs planned, possible reductions. So Carney was meeting with them to kind of hear their concerns, but also give them some reassurance that this negotiation with the United States over the tariffs is ongoing. And of course, at Kananaskis, at the G7, Carney and Donald Trump met there and agreed to, by July 21st, to kind of have this negotiation wrapped up. The thing is, though, Liza, it's been going on almost entirely in secret. We don't know exactly what's being discussed. We saw Mark Carney earlier this week essentially cave, or actually last week, cave on the digital services tax that would have applied to big American internet giants like Amazon and Netflix. So Carney completely abandoning that. What will he do now about these tariffs on the auto sector? The objective of the Canadian side in these negotiations is complete elimination of all these tariffs that Trump has imposed. But what does Canada give up in return? Are we going to make some concessions on supply management, for example? In the dairy sector, are there going to be other concessions involving softwood lumber? And what ultimately happens to the auto sector? Because we've had a trade relationship with the United States in the auto sector going back to the 1960s, 1965, actually, and Mark Carney likes to refer to that often because that was the year he was born, that the Auto Pact was formed between the two countries. And it was incorporated later into the Canada-U.S. trade agreement, later into the NAFTA agreement, then into now its current form in the CUSMA or USMCA agreement. But we don't know if this negotiation is going to kind of tear up those provisions for the auto sector, whether there's going to be additional provisions put in on top of that agreement, because it's all kind of happening in this black box, and we're not getting a lot of information. And the automakers, of course, desperate for that information because they have to decide what they're going to do in coming months in terms of the shifts of employees, crucially, manufacturing plans, and then in the long range, are they going to build factories here? One issue up for discussion, very likely in that conversation between Carney and the automakers, is Canada's mandate for automakers to start selling more electric vehicles. By 2035, the government has been planning to essentially eliminate the sale of ICE engines, that is internal combustion engines altogether, and that we would have a shift so that every new car that was purchased would be an EV. That mandate kicks in next year in 2026 when the automakers have to hit a target of 20%. Right now, the highest they've ever gotten is around 18 or 19%, but that number has fallen off dramatically since the federal government basically sunsetted this program that would give up to $5,000 rebates for people to buy new EVs. That would reduce the cost of them, encourage consumers to get into EVs. A lot of people, though, are very concerned about the lack of charging opportunities across the country. I mean, obviously in big cities, big population centers, there's lots of places to charge your electric vehicle. Outside of those, maybe not so much. That is still a work in progress. So this is the decision point we're going to be watching for Mark Carney coming out of this meeting with the auto industry, is whether or not he is going to maintain this mandate, this electric vehicle mandate, starting next year. It's only about 6 months away now that this would start to apply. Starting next year, 20% of all newly sold vehicles would have to be EVs unless Carney steps in to scrap that law. So we're going to watch that over the next couple of days. Is he going to back down on this, or are they going to restore that rebate for consumers so they can start going out and buying these EVs? Because right now, it's looking like they're not going to make it, and the industry obviously extremely concerned about this. But then, of course, much more concerned, though, as well about the broader negotiation with Trump and the tariffs, and whether or not they can continue to make vehicles as they have done since the 1960s here in Ontario, or whether or not they're going to have to watch these jobs slowly twitter back to the United States, Faiza.